What does Chalog actually do?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think the Chamber for Local Governance, number one, is a civil society organization, and our interest is to expand the frontiers of local governance in Ghana. So everything that has to do with the local government system of this country, when you check Article 20 of Ghana's constitution, it talks about local government and decentralization. So it is Article 20 that is our main motivation to ensure that the local governance system, as envisaged by Ghana's constitution, works appropriately. So basically, everything local government is an area of interest to us.
But what prompted this nationwide investigation?
Yeah, for some time now, we have realized that every year the Auditor General comes out with its report, and you see that the MMDAs continue to come, the infractions that the Auditor General complains about, every year it continues to worsen. So we are like, how is it when we have a leadership in all the district assemblies? There's no district assembly today that does not have a chief executive. So all the 261 seats are occupied. So is it the case that the system is not working, or the people within the system are sabotaging the system to the extent that Auditor General comes out with a report, we all talk about it, and the next year it is worse than the previous year. So as Chalog, we said no. We needed to delve deep and ensure and find out why the issues are escalating by the day. Because as far as we are concerned, there must be leadership, and there's actually leadership. So what is the problem that is not allowing leadership to check some of these infractions that Auditor General keeps talking about almost on a yearly basis? So that was the motivation for carrying out this nationwide survey to find out exactly what the issues are.
And in doing this work, what was the research methodology?
What we did was we have reps across the country. So you needed to go to each district assembly, randomly select 10 civil servants or local government staff working, and then you interview them based on the questionnaire that was used. So clearly, our interest was just to find out what are the challenges that is not allowing the civil servants and local government staff to do what they are mandated by the Constitution and indeed the Local Governance Act to do. So the questions were just simple, to find out why they are not doing what they are expected to do and what are the hindrances that are in their way. And basically that was what it was.
And those on the ground force that you used, what did they say were some of the challenges they met? Because we'll come into the results, but I want us to tackle all these.
Yeah, the challenges are many. So after a period, we needed to aggregate it so that we rank it according to, each level of, if you like, severity or seriousness. Yes, so basically it has to do with the overall political interference, because that is the only thing that is not allowing them to do what they have to do, because it seems as if when chief executives are appointed, they see it more as doing, quote unquote, the president. If they are even doing the bidding of the president, there is no problem. But we also see that it is more of the bidding of the party in government. And that is where the challenge is, because if you look at Article 55, Clause 3 of Ghana's Constitution, it makes the local governance system non-partisan.
Okay.
It is for each reason why we go to elect assembly members and unit committee members on a non-partisan basis. So the institution that is supposed to house these non-partisan elements, assembly members and unit committee members, the civil servants and the local government staff, they are just technocrats.
Yeah.
And then administrators. So clearly we have an issue. So it is not something that can be blamed generally on the government that is a government policy. No. That's why we are trying to draw the attention of the minister to look at it and see how it's affecting. Because at the end of the day, the government in power will want more development projects to be done in the local areas for it to win power. So it is not good what is happening now. If you ask my personal considered opinion, it's not even good for the ruling government, because for revenue not to come in for it to do the development programs that has to be done, obviously it doesn't inure to the benefit of the government. So that is why for us as a civil society organization, we are not interested in anybody breaking it or anybody winning elections. We are just interested in that the local governance system must be allowed to work and it must function the way it has to, as envisaged by Article 20 of Ghana's Constitution.
Indiscriminate and unjustifiable transfer of staff at the behest of MMDCE's presiding members and constituency executives.
Yes, that is where we rank it as first because that has been the area of the unrestrained political interference.
If they don't like you, they transfer you.
They transfer you, and you have no say. And for us, after we also work at how the local government service actually is supposed to function. I want to say on your medium that the local government service, if you look at the act, is supposed to be decentralized. So we should have a local government service at the regional level and at the district level. Unfortunately, we don't. So everything is centralized. So when a chief executive just calls the head of local government service and complains about somebody that this person is not allowing us to do our work very well, we would have expected that some investigation would have been done for the head of local government service to be convinced beyond reasonable doubt that yes, this person is not performing as per the dictates of the Local Government Act, which as a civil servant or local government staff you are supposed to do and perform your task very. So there are KPIs. So if the KPIs are not being met, then it is the staff that has to be dealt with. But that's not what we are seeing
on the ground.
So we realize that some chief executive think that because they are the political head, they must do things that will favor their political interest and all that. But they sometimes forget that the system itself is a non-partisan system. And the assembly is such that they have deliberative functions, they have executive functions as well. So it is only in the local government system that you have all the three arms of government operating within one setup. If you come to the central level, the legislature is different from the executive. But when you go to the local government level, they are one and the same. So that is where the challenge is. So you have a serious disconnect between the central, if you like, administrative body and those who have political interest or intention. So it is only the chief executive in the assembly who, stricto sensu, has political
interest. Who is a politician. Everybody else there must be non-partisan.
Everybody there must be non-partisan. So even assembly members, I may be NDC, I may be MPP, I may be CPP, but because I was not elected on partisan basis, on the floor of the House, you don't see anything partisan being that. So clearly, you have a situation whereby some of the constituency chairmen and executives have become so powerful that even if the chief executive doesn't like it, he has to do it because he thinks that it's the party that, quote unquote, brought him. And some of these issues had to come to the fore because of contract issues where the party thinks that some of this contract, we should get it. We are not against any party member getting a contract. They are Ghanaians and they deserve it. Once they have a registered company, they should be given the contract. But when it comes to the civil servant and local government staff doing assessment and seeing that, no, the way you want this thing to be done, we cannot do it that way. That is where they become a target for transfers. And once Accra is called, who are you? You will go. And it's a challenge because some of the staff, in fact, majority have decided to take it cool because transfers actually does not affect their salaries, but it affects their families. You are transferred to Tamale, you bring your children from Accra to Tamale, they are about starting school or they just started school because of what political interest people do not want to see, and based on that you are transferred again. It affects your family, and that is what the issue is with the civil servant. And many of them have just decided to take, if you like, a backstage and allow the system to run the way they want it to run. After all, I still get my salary, whether I'm in Zabzugu Tatale or I'm in Tamale or I'm in Accra. So clearly, that is what we are seeing, and it is not helping the local governance system. So our argument is about the system and not too much the persons or players within the system. At the end of the day, we are paying property rate taxes, we are paying business operating permits. We expect those monies will culminate into the IGF, internally generated fund of the assemblies, to be used for development purposes for us. So if it so happens that some of these things are going on and they are not able to generate enough revenue, then obviously the developmental issues that assembly has had to contend with will not see the light of day.
Interesting. I mean, it's a 8:30 right here on Z in the morning when we are having the Z Talk, which is today we're talking about the investigative report on the state of local governance in Ghana, and we're here with Dr. Richard Fiadomo, who is the president of the Chamber for Local Governance. I'm looking at this and I am worried. I'm going to tell you why I'm worried. The first three things on your list of findings: indiscriminate and unjustifiable transfer of staff at the behest of MMDEs, presiding members, and constituency executives. That's one. Open threat to local government staff at the least provocation with the use of transfers by the MMDCEs. Number three, constant political interference and issuance of threats to internal auditors who try to stamp the authority for the right things to be done. It's first three threats. If you do, we'll transfer you. If you misbehave, how does someone come to work and give up their best when they are living in from what you're saying? It's a very, very prickly environment, very ready to. People are walking on eggshells. How are they working then? How are they producing the results, the KPIs that we're speaking about?
Yeah, thank you. That is a serious and a major challenge for local government staff today. And more often than not, they even had a lot of people who didn't even want to talk, even though they know about the existence of Chalok. They were still not sure who was behind the research. Yeah, exactly. So many of them did not even decline to talk to us for fear of victimization. So even those who spoke on condition of anonymity, so we do not even allow you to talk for anybody to say that you can record you, so you just write what it is, the challenge, and then we pick it up. So clearly that has been the issue. And for the internal auditors, they is a bit more serious than those who are not within the internal audit system, because you see, there's so much corruption going on in the assemblies. We have a situation whereby contracts are awarded by the assembly long before they are advertised. And as if that is not enough, they now get people or contractors who, and sometimes some of them are not up to the task. And that explains why.
So they win their own contract and get people to come and deliver.
And get people to come and deliver. And sometimes when the auditors see some of these things, they do not want it to pass. And if you don't want it to pass, it appears you are working against our government. And so once our government is in power, we cannot allow you to, if you like, put spokes in the way of our government, which is not actually the case. So as for internal auditors, I dare say that they are endangered species as far as the local governance system is concerned.
0544321019. 0544321019. I told you today I'm doing a show with you, dear listener. Please, if you have any information on this local government conversation and you want to share with us, send us a WhatsApp 0544321019. We're going to pick it from there, because the first three are about threats. How do you live in a state of constant threat? Excessive political interference, excessive political interest, and interference in the preparation and awards of contracts.
Yes, those are the procurement issues that has also put a lot of procurement officers at the assembly also in harm's way. The truth of the matter is that the chief executive is the approving authority. It's the same chief executive that sits, and then once the General Assembly agrees that this project should be done, then awarding those contracts and everything is done by the chief executive. But the chief executive awarding, some assessment will have to be done on whoever or the number of people or contractors who bid for the job. And that is where you need the technical people to come in to ensure that the best person is given the job. But that is not what is happening, especially at the local level. You see, when you look at the PPA Act, and that is why going forward, we'll move and get the next parliament to ensure. Now, if you attempt it because of the election, they may not take us serious. So, for obvious reasons. But for next year, we'll move to have a separate entity to look into procurement as far as the district assemblies are concerned. Because the quantum of monies they have to deal with more often than not are not that big for sole sourcing and all this. So there is always competition at the local level, but it is an illegal competition to the extent that people who they know do not even have what it takes, only one person that they want to give it to, they just bring a lot of people to come in there, and many of them are not fit for purpose. And that is why more often than not, they will award the contract before you see it in the daily graphic, just to meet the requirement, PPA requirement and all those kind of things. So those are the challenges, especially because they feel that it's only projects that can be done so that they can also make some money. And for us, that is not a problem at all. And that explains why you see buildings and roads that have been constructed in no time, they will start having gaping potholes and other things. Yeah, it's just for the money to leave the system and not for the fact that the work must be done and must be done well. So if you're a civil servant and you want to stamp your authority, then you end up not in the good books of the political system in which you are working.
Planting party foot soldiers in units and departments to monitor and sometimes usurp the powers and traditional responsibilities of local government staff.
Yes, that challenge mainly has to do with the works engineers and then the road engineers. Because take it or leave it, that is the area where the bulk
where the money is.
The money is. So you have somebody who calls himself a personal assistant to the chief executive in charge of. Meanwhile, he has no engineering knowledge.
But he's a special assistant to the chief executive,
in charge of
roads.
So some of them have created themselves into pretended them to president. They are having ministers in charge. Meanwhile, the local government system or the service has appointed engineers who have gone through interviews and other things, who know their job. But so when it comes to issues of quantity surveyors and all those things, people who do not have that kind of knowledge will now want to be dictating and to the technical persons within the assemblies how the work should be done. And it becomes a challenge because ultimately it is not the engineer's report, even though he will report to the chief executive that the chief executive is saying is taking, it is rather what his or her
special assistant.
Exactly. So sometimes you have the assistant to speak and you'll be called by the chief executive to come and explain things which the person who even gave the report has no idea. But because they think they are in the political class, they should be able to do those kinds of things. And it's a challenge, especially for road engineers and those who are engineers who are working in the works department.
Okay, one comment here, and I'm going to read that right away quickly. He said, it's very bad the way MC is handling these issues. Why would a planning officer be transferred because he didn't support an MC's attempt to take over private land? A planning officer will be transferred. So it's like the transfer thing is like a whip.
Yeah, it's a serious whip.
Stay in line or we transfer you.
You stay in line or you are out of line. That's what's happening.
Wow. But these are very telling. Let's continue. Deliberately sidelining of local government staff in taking critical decisions within the MMDAs.
Yes. Now, the assembly, like somebody already said, the planning officers, they are supposed to plan the development of the district, municipal, or the metropolitan area. But now, because of political interest, it is the political class now determining which areas roads must be done, which areas gutters must be built, and all those kind of things. Because if you take a whole district, maybe this particular area, electoral area, is quote unquote NDC, MPP, CPP stronghold. So if it's NDC or MPP that's in office, obviously we are not going to empower people who are not supporting us. So now development at the district level has been skewed towards political interest. And that's why for me, there's one thing this government has done, and not government but MPP, and I want to commend them for, to the extent that if they have a certain MP and you are a district chief executive, you cannot contest the certain MP. So because of that, You do not skew development projects in an area that will give you
vote
over the sitting MP who is also a member of the government. But when it comes to where an opposition MP is, it is the political interest that determine how the district assembly's development projects should go. And because of that, it is being controlled. The planners are there, but what they have planned on paper is not executed, or it is not prioritized as should have been the case. And that is the reason why sometimes every year we keep hearing of flooding and all those things. The technical people have what it takes to solve those problems. But the political elite, sometimes the chief executive, do not see that as a priority because it will not inure to their benefit in terms of vote for their party or their interest to go to parliament.
Someone has sent another comment, and I think I need to also bring that to your attention. Why will the chief director of local government service, who is a technocrat, also sign on to these illegal transfers, these threats of transfers and being carried out? Is the person's hands tied? Why does the chief director of local government sign these transfers?
Yeah, there is the local government service. Let's not forget that the head of local government service was appointed by the president. So, quote unquote, he's a political animal. So if the chief executive, also appointed by the president, comes to me as the head of local government service and tells me ABCD people are doing things that will not inure to the benefit of our party.
Oh, then let's transfer them.
Then that person will have to go, because me too, if my government continues to stay, I'll continue to be the head of local government service. And that is why over the period we have challenges, but we are taking it one step at a time. Number one, the local government service must be decentralized, because for the chief executive to get straight to Accra, for Accra to crack the whip, it shouldn't have been the case. There should be somebody in the region and the district who should be able to do his or her own investigation to be sure that what he or she is being told is the case. But you have somebody in Accra, the report comes, you do not have an independent way of verifying whether the allegation has been put on the head of internal auditor and all those kind of things. And for me, some of the transfer are even very punitive. You have a situation whereby somebody is an internal auditor at a district, then he'll be transferred to go and be deputy internal auditor at another district.
Yeah, we are demoting you.
We are demoting you. So clearly, even though it does not affect your salary, the psychological effect on you is telling. And that is why some of these things are happening. And we should not sit down to allow our local government system in practice to be bastardized this way, because the constitution frowns on that. And that's why in 2019, when the president wanted chief executive to be elected on partisan line, we needed to do a referendum. Because they realized the referendum would not see the light of day, it was called off. And it is for good reason at the local level. If we allow partisanship to take over our MMDAs, I dare say that this country, it's going to be difficult, because some of the local issues will have to be dealt with, and dealt with very well, and not looked at in any partisan lines.
Forceful takeover and locking up of offices, as well as forceful seizure of official vehicles being used by senior local government staff. Party members are collecting.
Yeah, what is happening is that sometimes this one happens when it comes to the issues of revenue.
Okay.
You understand? So you have a situation whereby, because of the same political interest, some areas are becoming a no-go area for even the assembly staff to go and collect revenue. Recently, one happened in Ho, where the finance officer of the assembly's car was seized. And that was done by some assembly members and some party people. So you have a situation whereby, if, let's say, payment has to be made, I'm the finance officer, and I looked into the books, I look into the accounts, there is not enough money to pay this kind of thing. And a lot of the assemblies are using IGF staff. Yeah. So if I pay now, I will have difficulty paying my IGF staff. And if they have not been paid, their pressure will be more than outsiders. So I exercise discretion to do this, and I will incur the displeasure of the political elite. And then it's like you want to show them they are in power, and then they will rather show you where power lies. And that is what results in some of these things that has been happening in some assemblies.
Unjustifiable replacement of trained and experienced revenue collectors with inexperienced party foot soldiers who have taken over revenue collection And worst of all, okay, we'll come to worst of all. Let's first talk about the unjustifiable replacement of trained. So how does this play out? When a new party comes into office, foot soldiers who had helped in campaigning to bring them are sent there. I mean, they are not going there with CVs and all that. Interviews are not done.
Yeah, this is what normally happens. The assemblies have the right to collect their own revenue.
Okay.
The assemblies also have the right to sublet or subcontract private entities to collect those revenues. Now, so when you take the lorry parks and those areas that are easy to collect, normally you don't give it out to private people, because when the private people are coming in, they must come in with expertise which the assembly does not have to do the collection. So those are the areas where, because it's as if we are not able to create jobs for our people, some of these things, let's give it to them. And then some of them are forceful takeovers, and the chief executives sit unconcerned, not because they are entirely happy with what is happening, but because of the political...
They brought you to power.
They brought you to power. So that is where those issues are. And we also have some chief executives who think that the only way I can get the people within the district or the constituency also giving some level of jobs is for them to go and be the ones collecting revenue. Meanwhile, they are trained people who have been employed by the local government service to be in charge of revenues at the assembly, and they end up doing no work, yet government will be paying them on a monthly basis. And when it happens like that, even though they are not happy, they are not too bothered, because their monthly salary continues to come. And because of some of this, the assemblies are losing revenue, because if they are not able to collect, the technocrats are not able to, if you like, sanction those people who are in the system, because even though they are working within under them, they are not under their command and control.
Amazing. But isn't this a recipe for disaster, in the sense that we know in this country that there are places where revenue is being generated? Let's give a typical example. A place of convenience, a public place of convenience. Some party person is standing there, came in by the back door. They are trained revenue collectors, but the people have been sacked or they've been pushed somewhere. Party people are collecting money at these sites. Then elections are coming. Others are looking and saying, if we come to power, tomorrow I'm coming for that job. That's chaos.
Yeah, and you have seen that it's cyclical.
Yeah.
If MPP lose election tomorrow, the NDC food soldiers will take over those toilets, because they were handling it before these people.
So you chop 8 years.
You chop 8 years.
Me too, I'm coming to chop my 8 years.
Meanwhile, those are properties for the assembly. And because of that, the assembly is not getting the full benefit from those facilities. And when there are corruption activities going on, it's difficult to see, because even the takeover itself was illegal. So yes, some money comes to the assembly, but they think that it is their bona fide property as long as my party is in government.
Interesting. Worst of all, political interfering in the decision-making processes in the administrative procedures encompassing promotions, postings, transfers, recruitments, conversion, and upgrading. Wow. All of these.
All of these. And you see, now you are working as long as you are singing the same song with us. You are competent. If it so happens that you are not doing, or you do not want to join us in doing what we want to do, then you are not performing. And don't forget that when the issues about promotion and other comes, some way, somehow, it will go to the chief executive for recommendation.
And if they tell the chief executive?
Yes. So once the chief executive does not say anything good about you, not because you are not competent, but you are not a team, not that you are not a team player.
You are not their team player.
You are not a ball player in a certain direction, then obviously you cannot be promoted. And what is also happening is that these frequent transfers, it doesn't even allow the staff anywhere they go to be able to settle down and perform the task that they have to perform so very well. So these are all challenging because once there are KPIs and they have to do the assessment, yes, there's a coordinating director, but ultimately it is the politician who will have to, as it were, because he is the political and administrative head of the assembly, and that is how. So you have a situation whereby now some civil servants are openly doing, when I say openly, not as in wearing NDC MPP clothes, but are now also playing along for me to see that yes, even though I'm a secretary, I'm an MPP man, I'm an NDC man. So based on that, you have a situation whereby people are on IGF and they will have to go on the GOG payroll. So if you see that you are a party person and you are openly associating with them, then those are the ones. So it is not a first come, first serve basis any longer. People come in no time and then they move from IGF to the GOG payroll.
10 minutes to the top of the hour, 9. We're having an interesting conversation with Dr. Richard Fiadomo, who is the president of the Chamber for Local Governance, Chalog. We're talking about the state of local governance in Ghana. So now that we've elaborated and enumerated all of these things, what is the way forward, Doc?
Yeah, the way forward, of course, is we cannot see that political partisan interests should completely diminish from the assembly. That one, it will not happen as long as the chief executive is an appointee of the government of the day. But we expect the local government minister's attention to be drawn to this and then measures to be taken, especially the head of local government service. So that, yes, we are not saying that civil servants or local government staff may not misbehave at the assemblies, but as and when people, there should be a certain number of years that when I am transferred, I know, so some kind of security, yes, but if I misbehave, then that immunity can be waived. And then, so clearly, the head of service should not be in a hurry to transfer people at the behest of the MMDCs. They should have a system of properly investigating, because if they do not allow some of these things to happen, the chief executive will see that they do not have that kind of control as they used to have. And this issue we are talking about will be reduced to the barest minimum. And that is why we are calling on the minister through the head of local government service to intervene, because all these things that are going on, it is not as if the problem is the head of local government service, but ordinarily, once a complaint is brought to the head of service, some action must be taken. But what we see is that they do not do proper investigation, because the head of local government service is per the act. They are supposed to decentralize, and as we speak, they are only in Accra. Sometimes people argue and say that the RCCs, the regional coordinating councils, their core function is different from the head of local government service. So if you use a chief director of an RCC to be performing the role of local government service, for us, I don't think it is proper. So when the act says decentralization, it means it must go to the regional level, it must also go to the district level. And that is how it's supposed to be. So that there should be somebody at the district who reports directly to the head of local government service. So that when the chief executive says some of these things, because he or she is in the assembly, he will know and easily undertake his or her investigation and recommend whether the person should be transferred or not. But that local government service rep at the district is not under the command and control of the chief executive. So he or she will be independent to ensure that the staff at the local level are adequately protected against some of these political shenanigans.
This report, how far have you gone with it? It's completed and yes, everything is done.
Yeah, we have just highlighted the key areas and we've done it through a press release.
Okay.
And then we'll also be monitoring, but we'll be writing officially to the head of the local government service and indeed to the minister for them to be attention to be brought officially. But we have chosen to do the press release ahead of time so that by now they would have heard, and when it comes to them, they will attach a certain level of importance to it.
You think there is the will to make local governance in Ghana better based on this report and what you've seen? Do you believe the will is there?
Oh, for me, at the risk of sounding partisan, I honestly do not think that the will is there. Maybe if Baumia or any other government comes and they will shift from the current system, it will work, because clearly, we do not see the will, especially when we look at how the DACF is being handled, because that is the soul of the district assembly, and it's a constitutional dictate. But unfortunately, the money goes, whether it goes, yes, consolidated account or fund, and we don't know how for it to be transferred to the DACF administrator. Now we are in arrears for more than 4 quarters, 5 quarters. Over a year, the assemblies do not have their monies to be operating. So it doesn't give us comfort. So if we have any other party, even including the MPP, Baumia, come to tell us how they will be releasing the common fund in a timeous manner for development to be done, we are easily to fall for such things. But current state where the government is handling the common fund here, we are not enthused at all. We are not.
That leaves us in the somber reflective mood. Dr. Richard Fiadomo is the president of the Chamber for Local Governance, CHALOG. And we've been talking to him about an investigative report they did on the state of local governance in Ghana. On Z Talk this morning, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Doc. We wish the CHALOG the very best in your activities, and Z is always here to help in whatever endeavors that you take. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's Z in the morning. Coming up, it's customer service and experience moments right here on Z in the morning.
It's great to be back.